Welcome to the Spiral Thought Podcast. We present contemporary poetry, spoken word, and interviews on a variety of themes and topics.
Hello, this is Emily Brown, and in Episode 1 of the Spiral Thought Podcast, we're going to go back to time before podcasts. Back to when I was starting to publish Spiral Thought magazine and host a reading series in Brooklyn, and then coordinate the Brooklyn Alternative Small Press Fair. We'll also hear an interview with Paul van Lindenthal, my ex-husband. I met him on a dark and rainy night in November 1997 and helped him start his counter-cyber celebrations and Red Hook readings. It's an episode about beginnings. Back in the mid-'80s, an old college friend and I spent part of a summer talking about how difficult it seemed to be for our mutual friends, who are perfectly good writers, to get their work published, even in the smaller presses, like the ones you find in the annual directories of small presses published by Dust Books. That's nothing new, it's a competitive field. We didn't know much about the performance end of the business at that point either, other than the readings that always happened at the Ear Inn, which seemed like a good reference point at the time, and at some other small bars and cafes in the village. We talked about starting a small magazine and talked some more, but after a while I got impatient waiting for her to get on board, and I started Spiral Thought magazine. We'd agreed together on Spiral Thought as an interesting title because spirals include so many possibilities, more than the usual straight line between points A and B. Getting started with the magazine was an experiment. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just wanted to see if I could make it work. I wrote a small ad calling for participants and submissions and listed it for free in the Brooklyn neighborhood papers, the Courier. Back then, there was also a brief spell when the Village Voice also allowed socially conscious programs to run small ads for free too. All this was well before the internet and email. I was getting submissions by postal mail. After a while, I had an interesting collection of material and started retyping it on an old electric typewriter that my dad had given me as a high school graduation gift. It was a typewriter I'd used all through college for term papers and my senior thesis. When I'd graduated, I hadn't thought much about ever using it again, and it had been sitting in the closet. Layout was done by hand with rulers and layout pond and X-Acto knife and lots of rubber cement. The zine was reproduced, like many others, on photocopiers at work. Eventually, production became computerized in the early 90s. I didn't get an internet connection until the mid-90s, and what I had was still dial-up. I had to wait until the evening to go online because by then, I was living in Park Slope and freelancing. I needed my phone line to be open during the days so that my clients could call me. The whole thing was pretty crude, but I learned that I was in good company. Mike Gunderloy was still publishing the Fact Sheet 5 at the time. He was a grad student at one of the SUNY schools upstate and reviewed zines in broadsheet format. He eventually wrote a book about the whole zine culture, but then passed the whole project on to other people and donated his collection to a university library. Back in the day, getting reviewed in Fact Sheet 5 meant you'd joined the club. By then, I had some subscribers and distributed a lot of issues by mail and occasionally at readings, but publishing was sporadic, and I wasn't making any real money at all from the project. I'd also started a reading series in the mid-90s and used a batch of bars, restaurants, and coffee houses in Park Slope and Cobble Hill as the venues. In the early days, I had a few venues that really didn't work very well, because they seemed to feel that the purpose of having events like readings should automatically generate larger crowds and income for them. It felt kind of weird also to have some of the dinner crowds looking at us strangely because we were interrupting their meals. there was a tipping point. I felt like I'd never be able to get the whole thing off the ground in a way that I liked, and Gabor Gyukish, who'd been participating in some of the readings, he's a poet and a translator. He told me to go talk to Aaron Barlow over in Cobble Hill. Aaron ran a beautiful gift shop and cafe called Shakespeare's Sister, which used to be at 270 Court Street. Aaron was very generous. Other people occasionally hosted readings in the cafe, but he let me have a regular night and didn't seem to care much about making huge sales off the whole thing. He just expected the group to buy moderate light refreshments and seemed to be glad to see people coming in for the events. He's also a published writer himself, so he totally got it. We had some amazing readings there, incorporating not just poetry, but short stories and music as well. We'd branched out to use the Fall Cafe a few blocks over on Smith Street by that time, too. Shakespeare's Sister had the better vibe to it, though. I was so disappointed when both places eventually closed down. One night in early 1997, I dragged myself over to Shakespeare's Sister in a torrential downpour. The features I had scheduled for that night had to cancel for a variety of reasons, but I wanted to be a good host and let any stray audience members know that we'd be rescheduling instead of leaving that chore to Aaron. When I got there, he told me that there was a guy in the back who wanted to talk to me about starting his own reading series and who wanted advice. That turned out to be Paul Van Lindenthal, a Brooklyn Public Library librarian who worked at the Red Hook branch. He had a whole concept in mind, the counter cyber celebrations. He felt that everyone was getting sidetracked from having authentic experiences with modern literature because of the new computers and advanced cell phones that were hitting the market. I'd planned on having a brief discussion with him, but 2 hours later we were finally wrapping up what felt like a very long tutorial. I had no idea at the time that 2 years later we'd be collaborating on more than just the poetry circuit. We ended up married with a kid. Back then, though, I knew nothing at all about Red Hook. He not only worked over there, but he lived next to the VFW Hall on Van Brunt Street. He worked out an arrangement with Florence Neal, who runs the Kentler International Drawing Space, which is a bit further down the street, and she let him use the back room for readings. It's a lovely space. When I remember it, it seems like most of the readings happen there in the summer with the side door open for air and a neighborhood dog napping in the doorway. But I know that some of the readings happen throughout the year. Red Hook was really rustic back then. This is just before Fairway opened in the Civil War warehouse and before all the bars and restaurants opened. Back then, Sonny's Bar was one of the only other places to hang out. It's only open a few nights a week. When I started the readings, I started writing grant proposals to help cover expenses for outreach. I was able to establish a good working relationship with the Brooklyn Arts Council, who funded me for several years. I'm going to have my assistant Zira read the mission statement for Spiral Thought. In 1999, I also served on the Brooklyn Arts Council's Humanities and Literature panel, helping to decide who else in the borough was going to get funding that year.
Spiral Thought magazine is a small, independent quarterly magazine dedicated to presenting the work of emerging writers in all genres, prose and poetry, as well as experimental formats, through print and live performances. The magazine is published occasionally. Our optimal goal is quarterly. Monthly readings are presented in Brooklyn. The focus of the magazine and its public programs is on writers and artists currently involved in the creative process, primarily for their own self-defined purposes, rather than for strictly career-related purposes. No financial remuneration is available, but published authors and artists will receive a complimentary copy of the issues in which their work appears. We are interested in recruiting new participants on an ongoing basis. Please feel free to contact us with questions.
In the early 2000s, I'd been hearing about other small presses that didn't, at the time, seem to be listed in the Dust Books publications. I held 5 annual Brooklyn Alternative Small Press Fairs, to explore who these small presses were and help them market their material. It turns out that at the time there were over 80 small presses operating in mostly Brooklyn, and I had no idea. I'm having Zira read the blurb about that project now.
The Brooklyn Alternative Small Press Fair was begun in 2002, and has been expanding steadily since then. It is a 6-hour event where local small publishers exhibit their publications and information about their organizations, and authors perform live readings throughout the course of the event. The goals of the Brooklyn Alternative Small Press Fair are to provide a marketplace for local small presses, poets and writers who have created distinctive publications, recordings, and electronic presentations, to increase public awareness of the high quality and diversity of contemporary small press publishing and self-publishing, and to provide an opportunity for networking with the public as well as within the local literary community. Live performances throughout the day are an integral part of the event because this draws a different level of attention from the public attending the event. A live performance can be far more engaging than a static display of publications. The public is invited to sample a diverse selection of small press publications from local small presses, chapbooks made by writers and poets, as well as examples of electronic publishing, spoken word CD recordings, literary crafts, and much more. Relevance of event. Small publishers of all varieties share several common features, including a dedication to promoting contemporary literature of high or unusual quality, at some financial risk to themselves because of the large financial investment they make, often accompanied by a considerable investment of sweat equity, with frequently low financial return on their investment. Often the real return on their investment is the involvement in the promotion of a sector of the arts and humanities they have a passionate interest in and the exposure to new and atypical voices. Many emerging writers find that this market is the one most likely to consider publishing and promoting their work. The list of currently recognized, established authors who were once published by the small publishers includes most of the authors whose books may now be found in the major bookstores, published by the large publishing houses. While the small presses do not merely exist in order to serve as a transitional stepping stone for authors, this is one of their important roles in the hierarchy of the publishing world. The annual Brooklyn Alternative Small Press Fair is a timely and very relevant project that I intend to continue coordinating and promoting because it helps boost business for and local awareness of local entrepreneurs, the small and alternative presses based in Brooklyn, because it helps forge connections between local authors and their potential publishers and may help the authors' publishing careers, because it helps forge connections between the local small presses themselves and may encourage collaboration between them on a number of levels and may help them share expertise and resources, potentially aiding their success. One measure of the potential success of this year's fair are the first 4 fairs that I organized between 2002 and 2005. Many of the people who participated in the original fair also signed up again for subsequent fairs, and many additional presses participated in the subsequent fairs as well because word had spread and I had found additional ways to promote the event. Previous fairs have had more than 200 visitors each, including people who represented other small presses or related endeavors who had heard about the event at the last minute and who would have signed up to participate if they'd known earlier. I've established an extensive mailing list based on previous participants and those who have expressed interest in the event over the years. Participant interest in the event had expanded so in previous years that I found I had to turn some potential participants away because I had reached maximum capacity for the venue used for the second and third fairs. The event has essentially outgrown the spaces I'd originally used. I've found a new venue, Camp Friendship in Park Slope, that is not only larger, 1,600 square feet, but less expensive to rent, and tables and chairs are part of the package at the new venue.
Paul Van Lindenthal is a retired Brooklyn Public Library librarian. When I met him in 1997, he was launching his Counter Cyber Celebrations, a reading series based in Red Hook, Brooklyn. The readings took place in the Kentler International Drawing Space Gallery on Van Brunt Street. One of his poems was published in Spiral Thought magazine, issue 5. These days, he plays a lot of competitive chess online and is involved with the Democratic Socialists. He's also a pretty handy carpenter and built himself a small wooden boat a few years ago. I made a very short movie about it called Voyage of the Book Turtle, and you can find it on YouTube on my channel. There may still be 2 drafts posted. One has him singing sea shanties. I interviewed him for this podcast in late December, and our conversation follows.
Hi, I'm Emily Brown, and I'm talking to Paul Van Lindenthal, retired Brooklyn Public Library librarian and former host of the Counter Cyber Celebrations.
Oh.
Do you remember when we met? It was November 1997 at Shakespeare's Sister.
Yeah, I do remember very distinctly. And, you had your glasses at that time. You had glasses on, and you had a short skirt, and there was big legs coming out. Oh, sorry.
How did you hear? You came to a reading at Shakespeare's Sister.
Oh, okay.
And it was a dark and stormy night. It was pouring. It was
that was the second time.
No, that was the first time.
I first met you officially just then when Barrow said, "There's this guy here."
Aaron Barlow was the
Barlow,
proprietor.
Yeah. The proprietor, yeah.
Shakespeare's Sister.
It's a short it's pre.
I almost didn't go to Shakespeare's Sister that night because all of my features had canceled.
Yeah.
But then I went over
right.
feeling like I'd better show up just in case audience shows up. And
right.
I don't want to put it on Aaron to have to tell people to go
so
home.
This guy there.
Yeah, he said there's this guy in the back who wants to talk to you about setting up readings.
Right.
And you were still working at the Red Hook branch?
Yeah, I was still working at the Red Hook branch, and I was living in Red Hook.
On Van Brunt Street.
From Brunt Street, some kind of tenement, which probably now has like 4 times the price which I got paid for.
Oh, yeah.
It's seriously gentrified.
But it was right next to the VFW, the Foreign Legion Hall, right?
It was, yeah, it was.
And you didn't have a doorbell, so people had to throw gravel or yell to come up.
That was a really basic thing.
And it's down the street. It's like a block away from PS15.
Yeah, PS15. But at that time, I didn't know. I had any involvement with PS15.
But as we'll discuss soon, we had a bigger involvement with it. But, you were maybe living 3 blocks away from where you worked.
Yeah, right.
You couldn't have had an easier commute.
Yeah, it was very easy. But that was a good contrast because before I had a very long commute, actually.
You've worked at most branches of the library, right?
Yeah. And before I moved in Red Hook, I lived on the Upper West Side. So I used to come either by bicycle or bus, bicycle and train to Red Hook early in the morning.
Oh my!
Yeah, so that was my daily. And I've done.
It must have taken over an hour to get there from.
Yeah, I was actually not. Yeah, it was actually not that bad. But I basically took the train. To
you biked to probably the IRT at 96th Street.
Yeah, and took the train there. And I don't think that I had much trouble with putting my bike on, or that it was very much a problem with other people. People didn't complain, so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it was good actually. It was very bike friendly.
But once you got down to Red Hook. You ended up being 3 blocks away from your library.
Oh, that was nothing, yeah.
And when I met you, I remember thinking how funny this Dutch guy who lives on the street with a Dutch name, and it's all waterfront.
It's all Van Brunt too.
And it's all gray when we go over there and hang out. But when I talked to you in the back of Shakespeare's Sister, which was a wonderful cafe in the back room, and a gift shop up front, run by Aaron Barlow, who's an English professor.
Right.
But I think this is just before he really started doing English professoring full time.
Oh, full time, yeah.
But he's been a writer for years.
Oh, yeah. He wrote some books.
But he was terrific. Yeah, he's published a whole series. He wrote something about Philip K. Dick.
Oh, he did. I didn't know that.
The dystopian world of Yeah, I'm going to have to check this because I may be misspeaking.
Right.
But he was a very supportive guy for the reading circuit.
No, he was. Yeah.
I had been doing a batch of readings for a couple of years by the time I met you.
Right.
And I had been trying to get readings going in little bars and restaurants in Park Slope.
You also had a journal, right?
Right, Spiral Thought magazine.
Yeah, you had quite some issues on it already.
Yeah. I'd done 4 issues, and it was just a small zine kind of a thing. It's which is photocopied on photocopiers in places like the Brooklyn Museum. I'd take a stack of stuff up from the registrar's office and get that done very quickly, and then start collating my magazine.
Yeah.
And I'd come back downstairs, and they'd say, "You were gone a little longer than we thought." Oh yeah, there was a line. Oh yeah, there was a line up there. I had to wait for someone else to finish, and then it jammed, and I had to unjam it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'd run off like 50 copies of the zine, which got distributed around Brooklyn. But Gábor Gyukic, who was a Hungarian poet, was the one who told me, go talk to Aaron over at Shakespeare's Sister.
Oh, Gábor.
Because, because Aaron is very sympathetic to poets and the readings.
Oh,
and
great.
He had done he wasn't doing the series there, but he had set things up so that he and other international poets.
Oh, Gábor was international, kind of.
He's Hungarian. He was hanging. He was the prince of the poetry circuit here in Brooklyn. He was a real playboy kind of a guy, and he wrote these poems about sitting in bed, having sex, and having a cigarette, and hiding the girl's underwear so that she couldn't get dressed and go home. Do you remember? It's very funny.
Slightly preferred it. I mean, you know.
But no, it's just prankster-ish.
Yeah, right.
Now he's married, has 2 kids, lives in a castle somewhere in Hungary.
God, he must have money somehow.
Yeah, well, I don't know Mrs. Gábor, so maybe it's her.
Yeah.
But he and people like Gabriel Levicki made money on the side by doing translations.
Oh, that is a way to do.
Yeah.
That's the subject is interesting. I wish my Dutch was... translations. Yes.
Yeah, but no, they used to... And Gábor is also it's Gabriel, who's also a wonderful visual artist. He does these sort of surrealistic collages and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But Gábor was the one that told me to go talk to Aaron Barlow. Right. He'd been a feature at one of my readings in the Slope, and I've been having really mixed results with little restaurants in the Slope who seem to feel that having poetry readings is supposed to generate extra audience and income for them.
Yeah.
Which is never really the way it works out. Aaron had a different attitude. I don't care whether you make extra income for me. Come in on a Sunday, late afternoon, early evening, when things are a little slower here, and you can have the room for a couple of hours.
Oh, wow.
And as long as they buy a coffee or something, then you have that back room.
Right.
You can have free access as often as you want, every week.
Right. Oh, that's good. That's good. Excellent.
And it was a great arrangement, except that the poets would get irate over the cappuccino machine going
too much
at
noise.
the peak of their masterpiece, and they would be like, "You have to tell that man to stop making cappuccino."
Yeah, actually,
like, no,
did you? Or?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But I had to explain again and again to the poets that
comes as the territory.
We're here with Aaron's blessing.
For free.
But the way that, and he's not charging his rent, but he's got to sell coffee or he won't have a cafe.
Right. He has to make money.
Right. But you came to this this reading that wasn't happening.
Right. Good.
And you had heard about me how?
Actually, that is a good question. If I remember, you had advertised in the local
I had a lot of little classified ads, Park Slope Courier, event listings.
Yeah, that is what I did. I think I got it out of the Park Slope Courier.
The little neighborhood freebie paper.
Yeah, right. And it was right there, so I like to check it out. And so there's something interesting interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spiral Thought was a nice. I think you mentioned Spiral Thought reading. Actually,
I think I was also at the same time asking not just for performance at the readings, but for submissions to the magazine.
Okay, that's
that
right.
could be. I have to go back into the archive, which is in storage. But
wow.
But you had an intriguing idea for counter cyber celebrations. It was to get away from being computer bound. Everybody at the time in 1997 was like, oh wow, the interwebs, and we've got a computer connection, and everything being very mechanical. But why don't you tell me, that was the impression I got. Tell me.
Yeah, that is correct impression. Everything was, there was such an from the computer people, was so much hype and advertising geared towards the PC and the laptop, and everybody had to have it. That was pre iPhone, and that became even more so. So
we didn't even have Crackberries.
Yeah, I thought people don't communicate with each other more on a verbal basis, which is
you wanted more of a face-to-face human connection.
And the spoken word specifically, and that was kind of dying because you do it all indirect nowadays. It is all via the screen, and it started at that time already. The virtual virtual existed, the virtual reality. And the cyber
Everything
world.
Is kind of canned in a tube with a ray.
Yeah, right. And everybody, communicated either via the phone, or with the email. Email was getting popular among. Skype wasn't invented then, but a lot of that. And I thought it's going to be in trend, and I think people should have physical human experiences, whether it is poetry for that matter, or could be politics.
It's a social thing.
Yeah, and
it could be, and it should be.
And I thought specifically making it poetry, because I think there's a word of poetry loosens up the feelings very, very, very well. It loosens. It's like wine, but then only it is like wine, but then with words, and in that way it affects you in a sense, in an other level. So I thought it was important to bring that about and to start doing that and calling it that way, and squarely saying, yeah, well, that is what I'm doing. I'm giving counterweight to the cyber. Yes, the title was a little bit awkward, I always thought, but it was a little bit weird, but nonetheless, it gave the message or the idea.
Well, it's pretty original. I don't think anyone else was making a statement about needing direct contact as opposed to having it canned and in a machine.
Yeah. Nowadays it is actually it becomes a hot topic because the teenagers, the young people, are too much involved in the cyber world. Actually, right now they are. It is
put
getting
that
harmful.
cell phone down. We're having dinner.
But it's more than that. It is there's whole psychology.
It affects your brain development.
It does affect your brain development. And
do you think it stunts people socially?
Yeah, it does, and that's a problem why this new generation is so awkward or different. They, like, Max, my son, is in there watching his iPhone. He thinks that the world explores the world through his iPhone, and not anymore too much contact with other people. Actually.
Yeah, you know what though, he's better than some people's kids, because when I tell him, I want you to put the phone down because we're talking, he's like, okay, and he goes into a pocket, and if you get him to notice other things, it just takes a little nudge, and he is actually able to look up and take notice.
But good for him.
I've heard from other parents that their kids are just locked into the stuff for hours and hours every single day.
Yeah. And it's just, maybe we have to be not counter cyber, but we should have these non-television, non-cyber moments. We should have.
I'm glad that he's got this little part-time job that he has right now, because it's hands-on, and it's involving engaging little kids who are just above toddler age and putting their hands into the soil and doing some gardening.
Yeah, that's great.
And you have to have some basic people skills to be able to get.
Right. Yeah.
I think they're about 5 or 6 year olds now.
Yeah.
He's learning how to. So he used to say, "Oh, I hate little kids," and it's like, "Really? Do you really?
Yeah.
How many little kids have you interacted with?" Yeah. And now he's been doing it for a few months, and he says he likes little kids now. But I think it takes skills and patience to deal with. Yeah. He's 19. These kids are 15 years younger than he is, maybe.
Yeah. So anyhow, so that is what the thing was, and I noticed this gallery. Was this gallery owner?
Kentler International Drawing Center, right?
Yeah, Drawing Center. And
Florence Neal Arthur? Is her name Florence Neal Arthur?
Yeah, Florence. Yeah, Florence Neal Arthur, and she's kind of a substantial gallery there.
It's a for real gallery, and it's apparently well known all over the place. Right. And it's not just some little ditzy gallery off on the side road. Right. She seems to get big names.
Yeah, right.
It's been heard of. Yeah. It's been heard of by real artist types.
Right.
But there's no real big connection with BWAC, the Brooklyn Waterfront Artist Community. She's a freestanding gallery.
Yeah, she was there before BWAC, actually.
Yeah, well, I remember when BWAC was somewhere in Central.
No.
BWAC used to stand for Brooklyn Working Artists.
Oh yeah,
Coalition.
Yeah.
Now, when they moved down to that warehouse, when they started having their big shows at the warehouses down at the end of, is it Beard Street or Van Brunt Street?
That's from Brunt Street, actually.
Yeah, right. Their stuff is across from Fairway. They changed the W to Waterfront Artists Coalition.
Oh, I see.
It's always been BWAC, but the W went from working to Waterfront.
Oh, it's a kind of an big ideological shift.
Well, they're trying to adapt and let it not be up to us to comment on other people's choices.
Yeah, right.
But she has a pretty solid gallery, and it's been there for, I'm going to guess, 35 years now?
Yeah, should be around that, yeah. It was there when I came.
It was already established.
21.
Yeah.
So it was, it was already established. I don't know for how long, but but it's definitely more than 20 years there. Yeah.
Right. I wonder if those long benches that you made to seat I wonder if she still has them in the back room somewhere.
She might have done. She just
out in the yard, maybe.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a funny dog that used to stick his head in the door when we were having readings there?
Yeah.
And he'd like, woof.
Yeah. It's a nice space.
Yeah. So how did you get the reading series started?
Well, thanks to you, actually. I asked you, and
yeah, but I mean, did you write your own press release, or what did you kind of? We talked for a couple of hours.
Yeah, well, I did. I think we talked to you. You already had already a way to do it. I did what you did. I went to the local newspaper, the Courier. Printed it in the Courier. I put some flyers on. I remember. I also emailed a lot of people, which I actually
counter cyber, and you're doing a lot of email.
Yeah. Right. No, that's true. Well, you have to.
But that's how you had to reach out.
Yeah, reach out. Yeah.
When I was getting my reading started, one of the biggest expenses I had was putting together little postcards and then putting stamps on them.
Oh, that is a big expense.
Doing a mailing. But I started to get grants written after a while.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things I'd always put into the budget line was photocopying and postage.
Right.
And I had a mailing list.
Right.
of actual physical snail mail addresses.
It was wonderful. The email at that time, and I must admit, the email at that time was wonderful. You had no advertising on your email, so you only read what people.
It was clean. It was like your message delivered to somebody else's inbox without cluttery, crappy other stuff. Now you have ads for Geico and
there's nothing anymore. It's just like it's all commercial practically. If you find something personal, nobody writes personal anymore to email, and it used to be that way.
Do you really think so?
Yeah, I don't think so. Actually, not that much. Well, people still do, but just to a lesser extent. It is all formalized when you are part of an. Well, no, that's not true. Yeah, you probably. I don't know what is your experience with that?
I still because. Well, before I started getting more minutes on my cell phone, it was the way that I kept in touch with half the people that I knew from college who had moved to California, Vermont, the DC area. I couldn't afford a long distance phone bill very much. Right. So we keep in touch by email.
Oh, you still do?
Even now. But now I've got a cell phone and I don't have... Back when I had a landline and no cell phone, to call somebody in California would be, it's just like, hi, I just wanted to say hi. We haven't talked in months, but I don't want to make this more than a 10-minute call because I got to pay the bill. Right. Now, your minutes, cell phone minutes, there's no such thing as long distance unless you're calling outside of the United States.
Right, yeah. That's right, yeah.
But back, when everybody had a landline in their kitchen, it was like, I'm calling outside of the metro area. How much is this going to cost me?
That's money,
Now, a cell phone minute is a cell phone minute. Right. And the only time you have to worry about it is if you're calling Europe or,
That's true.
I think the rates are probably the same for close-lying parts of Canada and Mexico, too.
Okay. So anyhow, it was a good reading. And you were pretty well, we were pretty well doing this together, basically. I mean, you were always there. And
I remember you printing out a batch of posters once, and you wanted to make them more colorful, so we spent an afternoon splashing watercolor on them. And I went off on our bikes with a roll of Scotch tape and started hanging them on light poles and on Court Street or something, and put a stack over in that community bookstore over there. And
it's kind of a fun thing to do, actually.
Back then, I think we could also put a stack over at the food co-op in Park Slope.
We did, actually. Oops.
How do you make that stack? I can edit that out, but make it go away. Yeah.
Okay.
Put it on the table. So back then it actually kind of was what everybody was doing was kind of counter cyber celebration because we were doing live performances of poetry, spoken word. We had musicians turning up though that were really cool.
Yeah, that was you really had. I think you had to. Yeah, you had a few.
Carl Lorenzen was the guy with the thumb harps.
Oh yeah. I like that.
He had a friend named Quinn, whose last name I can't remember, who played guitar, and they did really raunchy versions of things like "She's Coming Around the Mountain."
And he also had crazy, not crazy, but this religious guys kind of. This is wife or was this girl?
I've been trying to think of his name, but he sent me a little demo tape. And one of the songs was "That's the Way the Cookie Crumbles."
Oh yeah, I remember.
It was a guy with a guitar, and his friend, the woman, had a viola.
Viola, that is something.
And we
kind of
got very different reactions to that duo. They had a funny name.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still play together. I think she went off to join some other band.
Oh, okay.
And he was trying to do solo stuff.
Wow.
And his solo stuff was not fun.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't want to put him down because I think he was really sincere about what he was doing.
Yeah, he was definitely was. Yeah.
But for me, I just liked it better when they had but when they performed on the same bill over at the Stone House with Gabor Gyukic and Gabriel Levicki and a bunch of other people.
Yeah, right.
Gabriel pulled me aside at one point and said, "These people are terrible. They're such amateurs." And it's like, no, they're just being really quirky. Oh, but he was incensed. Some people will react very directly like that.
They were all very serious poetry.
Very serious, yes.
Yeah, some people were more serious.
What I was trying to do at that time, and I think depending on the group and depending on the audience, sometimes it went over really well because people just got it.
Yeah.
Other times it did not go over well because people were annoyed or offended. I was trying to really mix the groups up and have some really, and this is a word I've become to be annoyed by, I was trying to get emerging artists mixed in. That's become one of those, that's become like artisanal.
Oh, yeah.
Emerging artists. Oh, we all had to get started somewhere, so, you know.
Emerging artists.
Isn't that a little pretentious? But I wanted to get beginners mixed in with those seasoned people. Because I thought it would be an interesting blend, and it might also give the newcomers, or however you want to call them, an opportunity to see how the seasoned people do it. Not that they needed to do it that way, but it might give them a chance to see, observe, maybe go have a conversation with somebody that maybe they had just started doing the readings, but some of these other people have been doing them for 10 years. And there are different styles and different ways of doing it. And I wanted to mix it up that way so it wouldn't be all one uniform thing. And some people were, Evie Ivy has always been incredibly gracious to everybody on the circuit.
She was a great performer, though.
She's still performing. She actually has a regular reading series over here at the Green Pavilion, which to get there, I still need to find this. It's on 18th Avenue. You take the F train and get off at the front car or the last car. I got to look it up because from the direction she gives, it sounds like this place is 5 blocks away from where we're sitting right now. And I haven't been down there in a long while. It's in the neighborhood. It's Middle East, the Green Pavilion. And she moves. When I first met her, she lived in Bay Ridge, but now she lives out in Jersey, so it's a much bigger trip. But she's always been incredibly supportive of everybody, regardless of are you brand new? Did you just start doing this, or have you been doing it for 10 years? And she seems to know everybody. Everybody on the circuit.
Now, she is Middle Eastern herself, I guess.
No, I think I'm not sure. I think she's Hispanic.
She is.
I could be. I've never asked. I've never asked.
Because she, I remember being out in Brooklyn there, Court Street, not Court Street, where that the Middle Eastern restaurant is there.
Atlantic Avenue?
Atlantic Avenue, what is it called? It was there. It was a regular hangout somewhere there. It's falafel there.
It's something Cauldron. I'm wrong. I'm not getting it right. I've forgotten. But if I ask her, she'll be able to tell me instantly, and I should. But they had a regular ongoing gig up there, and I think she co-hosted with somebody else. And they take turns alternating.
Very good,
I think she may be one of the people that brought a lot of other seasoned poets to my readings.
She did.
I think so. I think it was her and a handful of other people because it's a circuit where everybody knows each other. And there's kind of affinity groups. There are a few people that don't get along all that well, but a lot of people host a reading and bring all of their...
Now, there's still, like you mentioned, Edie Ivy is still doing, there's still poetry readings going on. And
there's yes, lots. Although, right now, there's something sad going on. The Cornelia Street Cafe is closing in a matter of days. That's been a venue for 41 years.
41 years.
Lots of people have read there.
It's been important, isn't it?
Yeah, Cornelia Street.
Yeah, I've been there once.
There's a regular restaurant upstairs, and then there's the performance stuff downstairs. Jackie Sheeler had a regular ongoing thing. She just passed this year, but a lot of other people. If you look at Facebook, I'll show you on Facebook later. Everybody is putting up testimonials to what what the Cornelia Street Cafe meant to them over the years.
Yeah, I remember
people launched their careers there.
Wow.
People connected and reconnected with people there.
Yeah, I remember doing my my story of the ducks there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell that story?
Well, it was.
Can you remember?
Yeah, I kind of remember. I don't know if we can put it in the same way, but I was struck in Red Hook. It was, was a truck unloading ducks.
Was it Red Hook in Brooklyn or Red Hook upstate?
Red Hook in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And there was one duck who had escaped and was walking around, and around and around. Oh, there was also something in Red Hook. There was also another one. Yes. Oh, yes. There's another one that is actually a mother crossing the road. That was in Red Hook actually. I'm not surprised that I remember this. I think just suddenly crossed the road and stopped the car actually somehow. And to me, I'd never seen that before. I'd seen it on films and books. I always read about.
Wasn't there a famous kids story about Make Way for Ducklings?
Yeah, Make Way for Ducklings.
Was that the book? It was a Boston thing, and there was a cop that held up the traffic because Mama Duck with her babies was.
That was actually similar than that. Actually, a similar experience. It was like that, yeah. It's like funny.
And it was one of those Caldecott Award-winning kids' books.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But I think if you're born after 1960, everybody read it. It was in the school libraries.
Yeah.
Make Way for Ducklings.
Make Way for Ducklings, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, that was one of them. And then, but the other one was actually sadder because the ducks would go automatically back to the cave.
Oh no! The poultry house?
Yeah, the poultry house. The truck driver told me, well, I don't have to do anything, it will come back.
Oh my word.
And that was sad. That was.
But here in Brooklyn, we have a very good network of community newspapers.
Right.
And every year it seems like there's, for the last 5 or so years, maybe longer, there's been a story every year about a goat or a bull or something that last summer, I think it was the bull that escaped and ran to Prospect Park.
Okay, yeah.
And he made an almost clean getaway.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was
I think the year before it was a couple of goats. And somebody saved them and took them to a farm sanctuary somewhere in Jersey.
Oh, good.
Maybe I'm.
But anyhow, so that was I don't know which I did at that cafe, but it was an animal story I remembered actually.
Oh, okay.
So it was
venues are shutting down. Shakespeare Sister shut down. The Fall Cafe shut down.
Yeah,
and those are the two places that I was using for the longest time. I was also doing stuff part-time over at the Old Stone House.
But I don't know, new ones coming open?
There are. A lot of people use restaurants and bars.
Yeah. It is a good thing for a restaurant to have something like that. You can sell it.
But you need the proprietors to not make it all about the money. Because you're not going to make lots of extra money.
No.
But
there are days that I've seen even at...
You have it happen on a slow day when you're not going to be taking space away from... Friday and Saturday nights are date nights.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily want to do it that night.
No, because, the reason I think of it, because I see all those bars which opened up on Fifth Avenue and on Sunday Saturday.
They look slow as hell.
Slow, and they can use a little bit of action. They something different, So they should be open for a thing like that. It's easy to sell.
One hopes, because the thing that got me off of restaurants and bars early on was having the lady that ran Cornbread Cafe, which was a place that was very nice on 7th Avenue, told me after a month or two, this is not working out so well for me because I'm not making extra money because of this. And I'm like, okay, well,
you're right, yeah.
And that was a reaction I got another couple of times.
Oh, okay.
And I purposely set it up on a night when things would be quieter, so I wouldn't be taking tables away from.
Yeah.
And actually, it was kind of awkward working over there because
Yeah.
We'd walk in and people would already be dining, and then they'd look up because
oh yeah,
they'd look up and look a little annoyed because somebody was suddenly talking to them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's like, oh, well, maybe at the time, though, it was like, maybe I didn't publicize this well enough.
Well, yeah.
Maybe they needed a sign in the plays so that people would be aware.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. Maybe that.
But other hosts have wonderful arrangements with the proprietors, and they've been able to have readings going on at some of these locations for many, many years.
There's something in Manhattan going up, especially with the Socialist Democrats. They always find venues where they can go to. They don't.
And it becomes like a home, and it's okay to be there, and it's not like you're holding up space from the other paying customers.
It's an office usually.
Really?
It is offices which are empty after 5 o'clock, and they are made available for.
But who has the key? Is it somebody who works there during the day?
The doorman lets you in. There usually is somebody who is there working nights, or they work.
And they won't be annoyed by some.
You get in. The doorman gets your name, and then you say, but if people tell they're coming for a spiral thought. Spiral thought, the doorman lets you in and right 10th floor or sometimes.
Okay.
So there are venues actually, It's not as cozy as a bar.
Poets like refreshments.
Yeah, refreshment. You have to bring in.
But I do remember though that there was another group that was also using Shakespeare's Sisters some other night of the week, and I did ask Aaron once, and I don't know whether I should tell tales out of school, but he's like, I think what the conversation started because I said, I hope you don't mind that some of my poets use raunchy language. And he's like, no, I've got no problem with that at all. It's actually a lot of fun because you're bringing in a lot of new material.
Right.
What bothers me is the other group, and I don't know which group this was, but he thought I knew them. I didn't, and I can't remember who they are. But he said that this other group used to go back there. Nobody would buy anything. They'd sit there for hours. They'd help themselves to coffee from the urn and not pay for it.
Oh.
And then when he'd ask them to help clean up, they were like, or pay for the coffee they drunk, they'd be like, but we thought this is all complimentary and that you had a cleanup service. And just bad, and a horrible way to treat somebody who's.
But that is what you have to do with your poets, though. If you do that again, you have to tell them,
No, most of the poets that I had were already housebroken. They were trained. They knew.
Okay.
But this other group was just, and they'd get into these hellacious arguments.
Yeah. Okay.
So there'd be like awful crap going on back there, and they were like gobbling up stuff, not paying, and it was just like he had to have a very serious talk with them that was apparently uncomfortable for both of them. He couldn't believe that he had to tell grown-ups that he's not running a home a home for orphan poets. But so your Kevin Cyber celebrations ran for what, 2 years?
Yeah, I think it was about that. Yeah.
Was it 2 or 3?
No, not 3. No, it's not. I think we met.
We met in November of '97.
In November,
and then
got pregnant.
I got pregnant 2 years later, and I remember feeling very spaced out and tired. And 1998 going on 99, we went to the New Year's Day poetry reading over at St. Mark's.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't understand why I was so tired.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks later, I realized I'm pregnant. The following July, we had Max.
Yeah.
And I used to tease Aaron because I kept trying to do readings for a while.
You did, yeah.
I kept teasing Aaron, I've got a kid and it's all because of Shakespeare's sister.
And I moved up. We moved out of Red Hook too, so that was another.
It made it harder to get over there.
Yeah, it was
just
harder.
Becoming new parents at an advanced age was really kind of time-consuming and draining and exhausting. It was a lot of fun, but keeping up with work and readings and kid and part and all that was just
wrote this embarrassing.
That long poem was nice.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I published it in one of the last issues of Spiral Thought.
Yeah,
and I need to
came
resurrect.
Out nice, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a long poem, and it talked about that schoolyard at PS15 that was right up the street from where you've been living, and you were talking about other kids playing and singing Chipperty-Doo.
Max doesn't sing so kids.
But, within a few years, that was our kid. By the early 2000s.
Yeah, right, yeah.
He went to PS15 right there around the corner from...
Right.
I think you walked him by where you used to live once, didn't you?
Yeah. So I wrote got a kid by writing a poem about it.
You invoked a real child by writing about kids on the playground. Yeah.
That is actually probably interesting, unusual.
So do you think that Counter Cyber Celebrations is an antidote to...
Well, it spoke to people. The idea did speak to people. They thought it was a good idea. That give them poets a purpose too. That they had a battle actually against the and that they are actually some of it like the teacher. What was it? He was a teacher. My name. He was a great poet. He was a good.
Richard Fine?
Richard Fine, yeah.
I think he was a high school biology teacher. Yeah.
So people felt that, people feel that they cannot, everything is so constricted at the moment. It's very hard to find, and, you can paint and you can play music, but words are different, and
it's a very social thing, the whole performing. And having a live performance of poetry takes it into another dimension. It's one thing to read open a book of poetry and read it to yourself, but when you hear the person reading it, it's just like reading Dylan Thomas's stuff off a page is entirely different from hearing him in tone. Do not go gentle into that good night, with that booming, funny Welsh voice of his. And Cadman Records was started as a spoken word label. He was the first poet. Okay. It was for him. He was the... And then they added all the other people who've recorded with him since then.
So that is basically the essence, that the word is still important. And you have
not
to
just
keep
the word on a printed page, though.
Yeah, but spoken word,
Right.
To share it. You share something in speaking, and which is you work on it a little bit. It's not like a preacher talking to you.
There's also the opportunity for discussion afterwards. You can get a little feedback.
Yeah, and what is good about a poem, it is always short, so you don't get a long treatise or a long paper or a long explanation.
But I like incorporating prose into the readings that I had too, and that surprised people. I had people reading short stories, and at first that really set people back on their heels. It's like, why are you doing that? Well, because I like hearing stories, and there's all kinds of ways of hearing a story.
You can do
and
that,
sometimes it's a poem or 5. Sometimes it's a story that takes 10 or 15 minutes to read. Okay. Jackie Mosio had some great stories, like the one about the Virgin of Guadalupe.
Very good. Well, that's true too. But the idea anyhow is to get in diverse voices. Very short, actually relatively short.
And that becomes an interesting project when you're hosting something. It's like, which poets are we going to pick this month? Exactly, who's going to mix well with who? It's not about who gets along with each other, but it's like, we'll take an Eddie Rosenthal and mix it with a Richard Fine and a Gabor Gyukish and an Evie Ivy, and we'll do those are the people that I had at the Brooklyn Museum on the first Saturday.
Yeah, I was thinking more like I used to go to readings or lectures and things like that, and those are interesting too, but they are longer and they are not so personal. They're sometimes interesting, lectures.
The shorter format makes it
but the shorter
more
format,
in bite-sized pieces, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is not complete fiction, but it is a very often personal experience or interpretation of reality, very often, or a vision of life, how it is. It moves on the edges. So a little bit, and that is what good poetry should be. I'm a Quaker, go to Quaker meetings, but I seldom have.
Well, that's the opposite of a reading. You go and be quiet for an hour.
Yeah, but when you get the feeling, you speak up. Very often people speak up, but there's a lot about is self-centered. What people talk about,
and a good poem is more about sort of observation of your environment or somebody else.
Yeah, at least it transcends.
You're looking through your eyes or out a window, or you're on the street, or you notice something on the subway, and it's
not always, of course. It's no.
But often.
Yeah, but just so. That's my.
But back in the early 2000s, coincided with when everybody said books are disappearing, newspapers are disappearing, it's all going to be on the internet.
Oh yeah.
Everything's going to be online.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm seeing all kinds of people continuing their live reading series.
Oh, okay. So that
computers have not taken over.
That's good.
What I do see. At the end of 2018, we've had a couple of years of a horrible, nasty, idiot president, and I can't even look at Facebook most of the time anymore because everybody is ranting and sour about Trump. I feel it. I agree with it. I hate him, but when I go on the computer, I don't necessarily want to keep hearing more of other people getting even worse than I am in my own head.
Constantly.
I don't want to. You know what impresses me? What's great, and the people I'm paying more attention to on Facebook now, I'm starting to tune out other people. There's a group of a lot of the poets that I haven't dealt with yet myself, but I know of them through people like Evie. They're terrific. They're on Facebook talking about the books that they're publishing. They are still publishing books, and it seems like more and more people are publishing books, anthologies. So cool. And it's 18 years after 2000 when everybody was saying computers are replacing books.
Yeah.
Publishing is dead.
Yeah.
At least the print version of it.
Right.
Yeah. You will not be holding paper in your hand.
Oh, yeah. Gosh.
18 years later, yes. You're still holding a paper version of a poem in your hand, and it's bound nicely.
Yeah.
And it's well done, and it's curated and edited by people with good taste.
Right.
And what I like about following the writers and poets on Facebook is they're talking about the new poems they've written, the new readings that they've been to, having talked to another poet about such and such.
Right.
So-and-so just got something new published, or, hey, I'm having a launch party for my book next week.
It's a wonderful world. I mean, it's great.
I would much rather...
Yeah.
That, to me, is life in spite of Trump, because these are people... they are not letting this asshole moron loser interfere with... I'm a writer, I'm a poet. I'm a writer and I'm a poet, and I'm going to keep doing my thing, no matter, the president can be the biggest loser asshole on the planet, and I may totally hate him, but I'm not going to let that interfere with my business, my purpose in life.
Right, you can't,
is to go full steam ahead with this. And maybe I've got a day job, but I'm still writing my poetry, and I've got a new book out, and I was just at so-and-so's reading, and we're celebrating the Cornelius Street Cafe closing. That is the best revenge ever for having a shit president.
So
everybody else is angry, and I'm tired of focusing on the hatred. We all hate him. If you've got half a brain, you hate Trump, right? But I don't want to keep hearing political analysis this, evil empire that. What is your day-to-day life doing in terms of being productive?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have to create a world that is why doing my thing at the moment is not poetry, but it is
but it seems like a lot of people aren't using the emails so much unless they're having. That's for private stuff or for shooting a file over to someone else.
Yeah.
But Twitter and Facebook seem to be really good ways of keeping. It's like stir the top of the network so that it's like, hey, everybody, I'm going to be at a reading on Sunday. Why don't you come and show up? You're all invited.
Right. Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
There are parts of social media that are actually keeping the live stuff going.
Okay.
And
I haven't used social media yet. Yeah, I really am. I'm really backward in that. I'm irritated by that.
It takes a certain amount of patience too.
Yeah. Gosh, I have to really work on that.
You should go back on Facebook more.
Yeah, I should. It's small. It's all. Yeah, I don't.
Or not. I mean, like there have been whole months where I've avoided looking at Facebook because I can wake up in a perfectly good frame of mind and then I look at Facebook for half an hour and I'm irritated and pissed off all over again because it's like people rant.
Yeah,
I don't want to listen to this anymore. I want to listen to the people that are doing something constructive.
Right.
What? Okay, so the government sucks. What are you doing in your life that's helping other people find their voices or feel better? And it's not Pollyanna. It's life has to go on. And this administration is only going to be around 4 or 8 years.
Yeah, that should be it.
What are you doing to protect the National Endowment for the Arts, the humanities?
Yeah, right. That's important.
Or just guaranteeing that, in spite of everything else,
the arts are usually get good donors usually. So.
Yeah, but you know what? I think a lot of the people that we knew back then and that are still doing it now are doing it without grants.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
They're still doing it without grants.
Yeah, just for the love of it, yeah. And
because it's important and it's meaningful. It adds a layer of dimension to your life.
People do things for love, not for money, and just because they like it.
They're passionate about it, and because of that, they make it happen.
Absolutely.
Do you want to take a little break?
Yeah, a little break. This is good.
Hi, I'm Paul van Lindenthal, and I give permission to Emily Brown from Spiral Thought to use my voice and image however she sees fit, galaxy-wide, in perpetuity. I understand this is with no implied promise of present or future compensation.
Well, that's it for this episode. You want to get in touch? Email spiralthought@gmail.com or call 347-850-2283. Check out the blog at spiral-thought.blogspot.com. Stay tuned for the next episode.